Welcome back to India Business Report. I'm Yogita Lamai in Delhi. India loves mobile phones and computers, but few brands are actually made in this country. Now the government is hoping to change that by introducing a new policy that promotes local electronics manufacturing and incentivizes industries to set up here. Experts say it's a much needed move and warn that if local manufacturing isn't promoted, the country's import of electronics may top $300 billion by 2020, as Shilpa Kannan reports.
The headquarters of one of India's biggest mobile phone makers, Micromax. But this unit is merely for servicing. The Delhi-based company manufactures its handsets in China, Taiwan and South Korea. The company is looking to use its low-cost model to expand in Europe and Africa. But why does an Indian company not make its products in India?
Right now the constraints are so much that the ecosystem and the environment in India is really not conducive to mass manufacturing. So if you see, I mean, it's all about a complete ecosystem. A device manufacturer cannot be based out of India if the entire ecosystem does not follow. So if the government was to provide enough SOPs for the component manufacturers to start coexisting into India, I think that will propel the brands to think about a production in India strategy.
With more and more people buying televisions, refrigerators and air conditioners, India is an exciting market for companies. But with electronic hubs like China and Taiwan in the region, companies find it cheaper to import components or even whole products. Nearly 85% of what goes into equipment like this comes from abroad, and it's merely assembled here with very little value addition.
But while making electronics with mostly foreign components may be cheaper, it also comes at a cost. India's heavy dependency on imports left it vulnerable when floods in Thailand and the tsunami in Japan last year disrupted component supplies. To insulate itself, India is now proposing incentives to lure more investment into domestic manufacturing. The government has now come up with a new policy for electronics goods. It's creating a fund for the sector to promote special clusters for manufacturing and give local firms a head start for big-ticket government orders. But some say investing in India is difficult and any incentives must make up for the added costs of working here.
Anybody who's investing here is kind of disabled, not as enabled as maybe in some other parts of the world where the infrastructure is better, taxations are simple, doing business is simple. You can call it as a disability cost, which is fine. I mean, that's a part of the reality, and if government recognizes it and therefore reimburses and compensates that investor who is bold enough to come and invest here, it is a good development.
Electronics manufacturing is expected to grow at over 22% annually to a $400 billion industry by 2020, according to official estimates. But to meet these targets, industry says investment is needed to establish a homegrown semiconductor plant, which so far doesn't exist.
As a nation, can we afford to not have the capability to build a fabrication, to build a chip of our own? I think that's too high a price to pay. So between $6 to $8 billion for adding capability which the country will have for the next 20 years, I don't think that's too high a price to pay.
Thanks to rising incomes, Indians are buying electronic products more than ever before. That's great news for the industry, but unless local manufacturing is built up, India's dependence on imports will only increase, and Made in India will remain a pipe dream.